Die, My Love. Yes, that's right, folks. This is the new film from Lynn Ramsey. Her first movie in a little bit. It's been a few years since she worked on something. And she's kind of cultivated a status, kind of like someone who does a lot of festival movies or is very well recognized in that field. But this is kind of, I don't want to say her first big commercial play, because I don't really think this movie's like a commercial play. But this was a huge acquisition out of the festival season. I believe it was at Cannes, was it? Or I don't remember where it was. But Mubi put a lot of money into buying this one. It's the biggest acquisition that Mubi has ever done at this point. And that makes sense. Lynn Ramsey is a perfect director for that distribution company. This stars two movie stars of a certain era, and it stars two movie stars that are going to have a fan base to come out and watch their movie. So that makes sense to me. But this is not really a commercial movie in any form of the word. I don't really know who you show this to in your life, because unless you are like a cinephile and you're interested in film and stuff like that, this story doesn't really have any commercial appeal. You're not going to rally up your friends or family to go see this one on a Saturday night. You're not going to just casually throw this on. You got to be in it and be with it. And that's not a bad thing. This is a very fascinating movie. And I am genuinely positive on it. I think there's going to be a lot of divisiveness about it, and that's okay. Once again, when we talk about these kind of movies, I'm coming to it from a very specific standpoint. I'm a cis white male. I am only recently gotten engaged. I am not married, nor do I have a child. So I don't have some of the feelings that the other characters in this movie are experiencing. But I understand narrative, and I understand empathy, and I know how things react in the real world, so I can get some stuff from that. This movie stars Jennifer Lawrence and Robert Pattinson. They are this really fun couple. They like hanging out together, dancing, and just having sex all the time. This leads to them getting pregnant, and then Jennifer Lawrence's character gives birth to a baby boy. And the rest of the film is from the perspective of this recent mother who is dealing with how you manage in the world after this thing has happened to you. I don't know all the details about being pregnant or being a new mother. I'm not going to pretend I do. That's a really stupid thing for me to say. But I understand how intense that can be. I won't get into it too much, but there's a person in my life who just had a kid, and this girl means a lot to me. She's family, and you see some of that and just how it consumes you. It all encompasses you. There's nothing left of you in there, and this becomes your whole reality now. And this just heightens it to a very cinematic extreme. This is a film. It's not trying to be realistic. It's just taking the everyday approaches to there is no peace and quiet. There's no time for you. There's no time to relax. Your husband gets to leave the house whenever he wants and do whatever he wants, like go to a restaurant and eat a burger, talk to different people, communicate on this level, while you're just stuck here with this person that is suddenly all you can have. It takes that premise, which is something every new mother can experience and has experienced, and just says, what if we just heighten that so far where it's this absurdly dark and twisted comedy or dramedy about being a mom and how you just can't escape it, and you become like a feral being who just needs to find these urges and compulsions to be satisfied. I think it's very brilliant in that aspect. It handles that story well. The script really plays into that theme, which of course it does. It's Lynn Ramsey. She knows how to write women characters. I don't know why I need to say that, but it's really well executed in that standing. I think some of the technical stuff is interesting choices. This is filmed a very specific way. I don't hate the choices that we're doing technically. The cinematography is very classic Hollywood, I would say. It's not too showy. It's more giving the characters room to breathe, but has some quick edits. I think there's a lot of hard cuts, just a lot of taking the story in specific directions that may work for you or they may not. To me, they mostly work, except towards, I would say, the final 20 minutes. A lot of needle drops in this, and I wasn't expecting that. There's at least 15 different songs we were playing throughout this, not like the entirety of the song, but you could probably get an entire album put out with like the soundtrack to this thing, because there's just so many songs playing at every given moment. Sometimes you repeat them in the same sequence. It's very, very interesting. That's not how my brain works. Like when you do something like this, I don't think in terms of like, let's have this same song repeat, but we'll cut to different intervals throughout the song. I don't think like that. But I think there's like a numbingness that happens to you when you're like trapped in like this rotation, that you'll just be hearing the same thing every day, and it's going to have the same effect on you, which is driving you insane. So I like that. I think the costuming, if you can call it costuming, it's just people in clothes, works really well. And the set decoration works really well. This doesn't look like a modern home. And in that aspect, it could be like set in any time period, but it's very modern because people have iPhones and stuff. It's an old house and people are dressed like they live in the country, which is exactly what this should feel like. It's how this should breathe. It doesn't feel like it's in the big city and these are like modern people with struggles. They're regular people who had an incident. They accept each other and they love each other, and they just put up with the bullshit that comes with that. So here I am, a white guy talking about a movie, just exploring postpartum depression in a mom, and how do I even gauge that? You know, I don't know what that's ever going to be like. I'm never going to have that feeling. But I think for everything we are seeing, Jennifer Lawrence is giving the exact performance that is asked of her and is needed for the energy that this is committing to. She does so many physical movements with her body that I couldn't think of that. If you asked me as an actor to portray this moment of you being bored and trapped in your own head while the world around you is noisy, I wouldn't move my body like that. I wouldn't slouch like that. I wouldn't lift my legs in that fashion. She is so unafraid to be very specific in her movements, and I find that to be very charming. And one of the things that really blows me away about this movie from these two actors is how mature this movie really feels. I don't know if every actor or every actor of that generation would commit themselves to this. I certainly can only think of like a couple from the modern generation. Like the current generation of like movie stars, this feels like a Zendaya and Jacob Elordi project. I don't know many others from the Jennifer Lawrence and Robert Pattinson era that would commit to this, be this unafraid on screen, look sad, look defeated, just have this unencumbered movement to everything they do. I don't know if we'd see many people do that. Being somebody who grew up with both of these actors in big genre pieces, it feels like they have gotten very comfortable on screen to pull this off. I find it to be very, very good. Lawrence, you could argue it's the best performance of her career because what she's doing, she's never done before. She is unafraid, and she will get naked on screen. She will just be completely loud, completely quiet, just trapped in her own head and look at the world in a completely unique way from everyone else in this piece. And it just is so interesting to see that. What she's doing is so interesting, and probably something a lot of the women that are going to watch this film will understand. That's pretty cool. And Robert Pattinson is kind of nailed being like a squirmish guy lately. That's kind of what he's been known for. Very interesting stuff from him too, because he has to do a lot of different things. And I think there's a lot of men who can see this movie and not understand that he's actually the bad guy, but he kind of is. And I think that's the whole point of this piece, is like there's actually nothing wrong with this woman. She just is going through a lot and she's dealing with it in these very extreme ways, which makes sense. I'm never going to fully understand it. I know I keep saying that, but it's true. I can't imagine like you're so messed up from having your child and then every other woman you encounter is saying, yeah, it's hard. It's always going to be hard, but I'll get through it. Like, that's got to be insufferable. And that's never going to make you feel better. You're going to get very dry and sarcastic and hate everyone around you, which is so believable. I really do believe that. I think that would happen. Also, Sissy Spacek's in this as like an older woman, and she's pretty sick. She does so much fun stuff. Her character sleepwalks and she holds a gun at one point. It's incredible. Nick Nolte shows up for a little bit too. Just really cool to see that. He proving once again that he's a good actor. Both of them proving that they're good actors. I also really like Lakeith Stanfield and like the work he has very limited in. It's a very specific performance. He makes it work. And then I think the other big thing is just the metaphors and the visual language, like what's real, what's reality, are we actually doing these things, is any of this like truly happening, or is it just like over the top imagined stuff? And because we don't know, that's the point. How far do you go when you're in this state? It is about depression and separation from your child. So how far do you truly go in these feelings? Is part of what this is exploring. And I think it's one of the more mature ways we've talked about this exact thing. We don't, and the movie even calls us out, this is not like a topic of conversation we typically explore in film. Mainly because for a good century of filmmaking, movies have been male-centric. So when a female director has a story with a very talented actress, and we could actually like dive deep into what happens after you have your child and suddenly the person you thought you were, you can no longer be, is very interesting. And there's also really good dancing, really good use of food, and just an interesting way to explore like a normal everyday American family and how that might be troublesome or you don't like it. There's been a couple of films that have been dealing with this theme. I think If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You is another recent example of that, which is a really fun film that I enjoy as well. And then it kind of just goes into like the monotony of everyday life, like Begonia, like what are we really doing here? So there's something in the air about finding your individuality as the world around you is stuck in stasis, and I think that's kind of interesting. And Jennifer Lawrence really encaptures somebody who is lost and broken and sad and thinks she's okay and is probably okay, but the world's telling her she's not. She handles that all really well. And leads to a movie that can't really pick its ending. There's a lot of moments where it could have ended where it keeps going. That's not the worst thing, but it could have done just a little bit better at capturing that ending. You could have cut out a little bit of that, like, last 20 minutes. Is it the best from Lynne Ramsay? I don't know. But it's very interesting in a very modern movie talking about something that rarely gets the spotlight like this. So that's at least, at the very least, fun to see. It makes for a very compelling movie. You're gonna be just like, oh, we're really going here, aren't we? We're really saying these things and doing these movements. Like, what other movie are we gonna have two of the best actors of their generation pretending they're dogs sniffing each other in a field? And like, that's their love language. I'm like, that's just awesome. We're never gonna see that. So, Die My Love, I am going to give a 7 out of 10. Now, thank you all for watching this review. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. And of course, I will catch you in the next one. Have fun, stay safe, good luck.